Welcome to Geek Time with Morgan, where we play guitar very incompetently. So a quick update before we dive into our computer stuff on the battery charging project using the cycle satiator. It took a little over 2 days, and the cycle satiator provided over 200 amp hours of charge, which is about equal to the capacity of those batteries back there, those golf cart batteries. So it seems like it worked pretty well, and that was awesome to be able to use this for that purpose instead of having to go out and get another charger. So pretty cool. I haven't done a full discharge test on those batteries. I'll report back after I've done that. So let's dive into today's project. Today we are going to speak about this computer and this hard drive kit, which is awesome. So this is a 2014 MacBook Pro Retina display. So it's a pretty nice machine in its time. Since then, Apple has come out with new machines. So recently I found myself thinking, do I upgrade to a new MacBook Pro so I have more space and a little bit more speed, or do I upgrade this one? Now the thing is, Apple has been really annoying me at times lately because the new MacBooks, they're not upgradable at all. You can't upgrade the SSD drive, you can't upgrade the memory. Well, you can't upgrade memory in this one either. But also, they only have the one Thunderbolt 3 port, USB-C port, whereas this one actually has like several ports. It has Thunderbolt, it has the USB, it has a power separate, and it even has an HDMI and a place for a memory card, like for downloading from your camera. So the new MacBook Pros, you have to have dongles for all of that stuff. You just have 2 ports on the side, they're both USB-C, and for all that stuff, dongles, like I don't want to carry around more dongles. Like, it's just, come on guys, come on Apple. So recently Apple took a big hit in their share price, and I think their hubris is catching up with them. But in any case, I think this is a great machine, so I would rather upgrade it. Right now it has 500 gigabyte SSD drive in it. It's not enough for some of my video editing. I found myself running out and being very frustrated. So I got this awesome thing. I did a bunch of research and found this Transcend drive. It's called the JetDrive 825. So what it is, it's this little dongle. And you might say, how does this little dongle thing upgrade your SSD? Well, the deal is, inside this computer, inside the MacBook, there is what's called a blade SSD. So a blade SSD is actually just a little board with the memory chips on it, and that's all it is. So the whole hard drive is just that board with the memory chips. This dongle happens to have exactly the same size and shape of blade inside of it. So the cool thing is, out of the box, you can plug this into the MacBook and use it as an external drive, a very fast one via the Thunderbolt 2 port. So it's a very fast external drive, but if you want this to become internal, we're going to open it up, take out the board, install the board in the MacBook, and then we will be taking the one out of the MacBook and putting it in this dongle. So I have a 500 gigabyte external, very fast external drive in case I fill up the 960 gigabytes, and then we'll have the 960 gigabyte internal. So it looks like a pretty straightforward install compared to some of the things that I tend to get myself involved with, but we'll see. So the first thing I'm going to do though is actually move all of the hard drive content. I'm going to clone that onto this, so then when we install it in there, boom, it just boots up and it's ready to go. Okay. Now we actually have to make sure that the formats are correct on these. So this is an Apple file system encrypted. Now we're not going to start out with the JetDrive as encrypted, but we are going to erase it and make it into the Apple, the APFS file system, the Apple file system. In the default view, when you open the disk utility on the Mac to do stuff like this, you have a viewpoint that only shows the volumes, the actual usable what we see as disks, the things that we can write to and read from, it only shows these. But these aren't actually corresponding directly to the physical disks that we have. Those are the devices. When you go to this view, show all devices, then you can see what the disks are, and then the volumes are a subset of the disks. Now it turns out our Transcend, it was actually set up for a Windows or DOS-based system. So when we go to hit erase, we see down here that this scheme is master boot record, which won't work with some of the Apple stuff. So if we go to GUID, GUID partition map, then it suddenly opens up a bunch of options for us. So now we can go to the APFS and we can say, hey, now we're ready to set this up as APFS using the right kind of partition map. And this is a universal kind of partition map, so this also works with newer Windows machines and whatnot. So creating the partition map, boom, boom, boom. I don't want to use this as a backup. And now you see that here is my actual volume with the 960 gigabytes free, approximately. It's never quite exact. So one other quick thing we have to do before we clone this is we have to bring up the get info box, which is Command I, or it's under, let's see, File. I never do this. I actually never use the menus, so I just hit Command I. It's like programmed into my brain, hardwired. It's somewhere under these menus here if you're into the whole menu thing. So, oh yeah, there's get info right there. But we already got info, so it won't let us get info twice. The logic of computers. So what we have to do is we're going to need to uncheck this ignore ownership on this volume, because that's handy to have that feature. To ignore ownership means that when you plug in a hard drive on different computers where your username may be different or your user ID may be different, then you won't have permission access problems between the different computers of your pluggable portable hard drive. But for this purpose, when it is a bootable hard drive, permissions are absolutely essential to the system. So what we have to do is enter a password, a username and password for the administrator, and then go ahead and boom, turn off ignore ownership on this volume. So now it is fully permissioned volume. It's like authoritative and official and all of that. And it is ready to do our synchronization. I use the tool ChronoSync, which is a synchronizer and backup tool that can clone hard drives. I've used another tool that is pretty awesome in the past called Carbon Copy Cloner as well. But for today, what we're going to do is open up ChronoSync, and we'll do what's called a new synchronizer. And this brings up this document. And we'll give it a name. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is choose what kind of operation we're going to have here. And our operation is going to be a bootable operation. From left to right. And we have to give it the administrator privileges. Now, it found the root folder on Macintosh HD. That's the right starting point, but it's trying to copy itself to itself, and I don't think that's going to work too well. So let's actually go over and pick the second hard drive, the Transcend JetDrive, which is plugged in externally, and I think it's going to be happier with that. And so with this, it looks ready to go. So all we have to do is hit this button and start our clone process running. All right, so here we are back at the screen. This awesome thing synchronized. It only took about an hour, hour and a half, and I just did a second synchronization to make sure that whatever I was recording and stuff like that was actually synchronized to the hard drive. Alrighty, so let's shut down this computer. And the first thing we're going to do is make sure it boots okay from the external drive, since I'm paranoid And it's always good, well, maybe not always, but sometimes good to be paranoid and make sure that things work before you go out and make big changes to your system. So what I'm doing here on this screen is I'm going to change the boot drive to the external, the JetDrive, and tell it to restart using the JetDrive before we install it inside. Oh, it is finishing. All right, we can see there's this fancy little thing you can do on the Mac. You can hold down the Command key and hit the, well, if it's responsive, Command key and click on this, and this shows you the path that you are currently being part of. And so it looks like we are currently a part of the correct path. Now I'm just going to go ahead and cancel the unlock of my other disk because we haven't encrypted the new disk yet. We'll do that as a final step after the whole process is complete. So now we're going to shut this down and pull out the drive. All right, let's disassemble this puppy. So the first thing we're going to want to do is open up our little JetDrive. We've got the 4 JetDrive dealios. And we open it up, and we can see the little memory card in there. Yay! Okay, next thing is opening up the computer. We will unplug that. Now these, in this computer, are often different lengths because they penetrate down into the lower surface at different depths. So we'll need to keep track of which order they came out in. So I'm going to try to keep my surface here flat. It's probably a better idea to do this on a desk because with a desk I could be sure that the screws aren't all going to get knocked onto the floor if a cat runs by or something. Well, who knows? Cats can jump up on desks too, at least if there are cats. Okay, so now we need to separate this case. Voila. And now we can see right there is our SSD. That one got a good purchase. Okay, now it's always good when you're working inside the computer, well, not to drop screws in anywhere, but it's also good to make sure you've had a static discharge lately. That sounds like, I don't know, that sounds kind of perverse. A static discharge. Make sure you've had one. That you've been grounded. Okay. See if we can work this out. Yes. Okay. Now we have the JetDrive 960 versus the Apple that is 400 or 500 gigabytes. The pinouts look the same, so we actually got the right thing. Fortunately, on the Transcend website, they do list the correct one for the correct computer, and you do have to make sure to get the right one. It's not all the same. Different models have different versions of this. See, there's no rocket science in this particular process. It's just knowing a few basics of what not to do to ruin your computer. Because, hey, you know, don't be calling me up and saying, hey, I opened up my computer and did so-and-so and such, and now it no longer works. If your computer is still in warranty, will quite likely void your warranty. Now this one is from 2014, so it no longer has a warranty. Okay, so we have the drive from the MacBook now inserted into the Transcend device. We have the module from the Transcend in the MacBook swapped in. Now We're going to reconnect everything and see what happens. Now you want to make sure to get these screws tight enough that they're not going to like easily rattle loose and fall out. I mean, you could overdo it too. Like if you use too much brute force, then you can strip them out. But having it screw loose ain't so good. Okay, we just go around and check them all, make sure we got them tight. Because again, paranoia. Okay. Now, let us fire this up and see what happens. Truth time. Copy. We have it booting. All right, now we have the new computer just like the old. We'll do a couple more quick things just to validate that everything is happy. Okay, we can see our primary hard drive, Macintosh HD2. If we open it up and get some system info, it's a capacity of 959, yes, and available 532. That's awesome. Another thing we can do is run this very useful AHA system test. So this is a free tool. There's also a paid version that is more fancy and better and all of that. But this tool, you can go in and you can actually say, okay, I want to test the speed of this hard drive, and it just tests a bulk write and read. So we run it and we're getting around, well, 600 read, 460 write. Should be a little faster write speed, but that's pretty good read speed. We can compare it to the external drive. Oh, can't write to the external drive. Some permissions issue, but that's okay. So we know we can write and read to this drive at high speed. Okay, so the last thing I'm going to do is go into my new hard drive and then actually get that encrypted just like the old one was. I had to type in the password when I tried to mount this on the desktop. So let us do this with our system preferences. We go into Security and Privacy, File Vault. Okay, we're going to turn on File Vault. Okay, and it wants a power adapter to encrypt our disk. And voila. And now it is encrypting the disk. So we have mission completed. We have the new JetDrive inside the computer, and we have the old computer drive sitting in this nice little unit here and being able to be mounted on the desktop. So we are done with this episode of Geek Time. It's pretty cool that we were able to get that done fairly quickly. Didn't take too long. So I will see you on the next episode of Geek Time. Have fun geeking out.